Hey everybody, today we are making lard. You know, lard doesn't go bad, it runs, it depends on the temperature of your house. Really good just for frying eggs, frying stuff, you know, pies, crust, everything that you can think of. Look, seasoning cast iron pans, it's phenomenal for seasoning cast iron pans. This lard is from a sow we've had butchered. She had three full-size bags of lard like this. We've already rendered 2 of them. This is the remaining one we have. If you can get it ground, I suggest that. It really will help you out. You'll get more product at the end, and that's really what you're doing it for. So here's how you start. So you want to defrost. If this is in a freezer, obviously you want to defrost it. After you get your lard and it's ground or cut up, if you don't have it ground, you want to cut it up in small pieces. The main thing is you want to keep it around 225, 250 during the whole rendering process. And then we'll show you as we go on the best tips and tricks. Because the main thing is, as you're going through this, you just got to pay attention to your heat. And you want to get the moisture out of this. So we'll explain this as we go. But first, when you start, you're going to get you some jars, you know, some half-gallon jars. This will probably produce a gallon to a gallon and a quart. I'm going to guess probably a gallon and a quart probably. Get them to 275. We're going to heat these up for 10 minutes. We're going to set them aside. And then we're going to start rendering this, because this is going to take a couple hours. The only thing we're going to do is just get this sanitary. And then you can warm these up. Throw these back in the oven while this is rendering. And what you can do is just to heat the jars back up and prevent them from breaking. I've done it many times, rendering lard and putting it right in room temperature jars, and I never had them break. Some people, if you have worn out older jars, they could possibly break putting that hot liquid in there. So what I do suggest is start out with 275, sanitize the jars. Some people do put them in a water bath, like you're canning, you know, and heat it up in boiling water. You can do that too, but you got to make sure they're completely dried off. You want no moisture in there at all. But here is the secret, and here's the trick you got to remember. When we go to filter this out, this is the problem. Look, do you see that crust at the bottom? That's a big no-no. So it's a big no-no. So if you're going to store this for a long time, you're going to want to make sure there's none of this going on. The only reason why this is going on is because when I did render this, my filter that I used to use, I didn't have one, so I was just rushing through it. But this is kind of a good example of what not to do. So, because what will happen is, if you're storing this for a long period of time, you will start getting mold right here. So you want to prevent all these bits from going through the filter system. And we're going to show you that when we go through this process here. So it's kind of a good example of what not to do, and we're going to show you how you should do it. Our jars have been in there for 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to take them out of the oven and get them set on the counter. And just make sure that they're on a hot pot, you know, and they're out of the way, because they are hot. You know, you don't want nobody touching them. Set them to the side, just like that. Now we're going to close the oven. We're going to drop the temperature down to 250. And depending on your oven, some ovens get hotter than others. A crock pot usually stays around 212, 215 degrees. Crock pot's just fine too. On the stove, it's just fine. The only problem about on a stove or outside on a campfire or whatever you're going to do is you got to watch the temperature with the thermometer. Because obviously a stove doesn't tell you what temperature you're on. It's, you know, high, medium, low, or whatever. So the good thing about the oven and a crock pot is they keep you right around the temperature that you're going to want to be. So let's go ahead and put this baby at 250. Start. It's your roasting pan, just a standard roasting pan like this. Will do fine. And then we're going to open up this lard. Get this fatty pack open. It's ready to go. Looking really nice, thawed out. Let's get it out of the bag. The reason why like I said earlier, I like a roasting pan if you've got a lot to do. Oh, if you got about half this size, you know, a crock pot would be great. But what we're going to do now is we're going to get this big old chunk, throw it in the, just like that. Okay, so we got our lard in our pan, and what we're going to do now is you get in the oven. So what I suggest is, as it starts rendering and as it starts going down, you want to pay attention to the color of the liquid. If the liquid still looks a little white in color, you probably will need to keep going because it means moisture is in the fat, in the lard. So the main thing is during this process is to get the moisture out. Stick it in the oven, let it do its thing, keep an eye on it, keep checking it as you go. Maybe every 30 minutes just come in here and check it. You'll start seeing liquid, but let it start really filling up before you start spooning it out. And we're going to show you the next step. Alright y'all, so we're going to give a check on our lard, see where we're at. Just kind of get a heads up on what it looks like and part of the process. Let's pull it out here just for a second. Look at it. So what you want to look at is the cloudiness of it. So you can tell, see how this looks cloudy right here? It's a little cloudy still. See that cloudiness in there? You don't want that. But you come over here, take your ladle, go like this. See how clear this is? That is generally pretty good, but you can still see down in there some cloudiness. You see that cloudiness? Which means it's not ready yet. So kind of gives you an idea. Another option, what I like to do is take my spoon and just mash this around. Smash it around. Get it. You can. That's why I said earlier I like to grind, because you can see that them pieces were ran through a grinder. If you had chunks, it does work okay too, but you won't get as much back unless it's ground, from my past experience. And we're going to come back in about 30 minutes and see what it's doing. What we're going to do is, now that we notice and it's getting more clear and looking more correct, we're going to go ahead and move this to the side while it's rendering. Just slide it over in there. And then we're going to take our jars that we did sanitize earlier, and we're going to put them back in for just, I don't know, about 5 minutes. Okay y'all, so here we are back in the kitchen here, and we are just got our jars. I put the jars back in just to heat them back up a little bit, just so they don't crack when we go to put them in. Just a kind of a safety precaution. Now let's pull this out. Let's take a look at it now. See, it's nice and clear, and it looks great. So what you want to do is, do the old test with the ladle. See how clear that is? It's looking really good now. So we can go ahead and start ladling this off right now. You can use a flour towel like I'm using right now. You can use a screen like this. I've used these screens in the past. This one has a little bit too big of a holes that I don't really like. I used to have one that was more fine, but something happened to it. But you can use a flour towel. So cheesecloth has too big of holes, so you don't really want to use a cheesecloth. The cheesecloth's got too many big of holes. If you can find a flour towel, or a coffee filter. It might take a little longer with the coffee filter, so beware of that. And then just start ladling like this. And it just drains. Flour towel works excellent. We almost have a half gallon already. Now, you want to get your lids on immediately. So what's going to happen is you put these lids on while it's hot, and then it's going to seal this canister. This thing will keep a really long time just in your cabinet if you get the seals put on now while it's hot. I mean, you can keep it for a long time in your cabinet, no refrigerated, no nothing. So it's just an amazing thing. Pop your seal on it like just like that while it's hot. While it's hot. So you're gonna take it, go ahead and seal it up just like that. Put it over here to the side. And just leave it like that. It'll seal on its own and it'll stay really good in your cabinet. That's really all there is to this. And so see, you have this more left. What I like to do after I drain a bunch of that out, stir this up. Stir it up real good. And see, there's a lot left in here still to render. Take your spoon, set it to the side. Get your gloves, let's throw it back in. Couple more hours. And as it renders, I would try to get it as far down rendered as you can so that we can get the whole other half gallon filled. If you don't have this much lard, you can use quart jars, quart-sized jars, or whatever jars you have. Just kind of make a rough guess. Once you get low on this, just leave the crackling sizzling on the pan on top. No really no sense getting in the oven, and just you can crispify them. Here is the results. As you can see, beautiful lard. You know, we tag ours GOS Lard August 22. We put a little nice tag on it. But when you do this, when it's hot, you know, you stick that lid on, you crank that thing down while it's hot. In about an hour, you'll hear it go pop. It'll pop, it'll seal on its own. And as you can see on the bottom, there is no crust. That is exactly what you're looking for. Number one thing you'll ever use, and the quickest way to use, is a flour towel. And you can see a flour towel has none. There's just none. And so this right here will store for years in your pantry. So say the world goes a mess, there's no olive oil, there's no oils that you can buy at the store. To be honest with you, that day might come for all of us. If you got 20 of these in the pantry, oh man, you're a rich person. I mean, neighbors, you can share this, you can barter with it, you can trade with it. I mean, you can do so much with it. I mean, you can cook potatoes with it, you can grill with it, you can make eggs with it, you can do so much with it. It's so versatile. I even put it on my dog's snacks every now and then. I mean, it's just so amazing. And everyone should have this in their cupboard. Everyone should have it in their cupboard. Honestly, this right here, years in your cupboard. So guys, make some lard, have a fun time doing it, and I guarantee you, in the long run, you will be thankful for what you're producing. It's an amazing thing. It's like she's walking away.